Sausage.
Hello, and welcome. That's not how we do this intro, but we're already in it. We're already in it. Hello, everyone, and welcome to Attack the Backlog, the podcast where I, Marcus Nez, tries to make a dent in their backlog one game at a time. This episode is all about Contra Rogue Corps. This game. You want to know about this game? It's probably why you clicked on the video, right? Unless you just watch all my stuff and then you're like, I don't really care about this game, but I care about Mark, so I'll watch it. But this game, I played it the week of the Switch 2's launch, and I scheduled everything out so that I would pick a game to play that would end the day or a few days before the Switch 2 launch so that I could play the Switch 2 on launch day when I received it if everything went according to plan from Best Buy. And that didn't happen. Instead, this is the game that prevented me from playing my Switch 2. My Switch 2 with my Pro controller. I bought the Switch 2 and the Pro controller. Two. The 2. Because it's the second one. And you call it the 2. And TOO, because I got a 2 with the I got my Switch 2 and I couldn't play it because of this game. Because it fucking sucks so much. And I thought I was gonna beat it. I only had 2 missions left. Two levels because the mission ranks, whatever. I had 2 levels left, and I couldn't do it in one night. Well, then I didn't do it. Does it matter? Because of this fucking game, I couldn't play my Switch or use my Pro controller. Don't worry, the boxes are empty. They're fine. No Switch shoes were harmed in the making of this video. But because of Contra Rogue Corp, I could not play my Switch 2 on launch day, trying out Mario Kart World for the first time, hoping to have it convert me into a Mario Kart fan. And I'm recording this on the weekend. I have still not played Mario Kart World because I want to play it for the first time on stream. And I decided instead of playing it on Friday, the day after release, I did a late live reaction to Summer Game Fest, which was probably a terrible idea because Summer Game Fest this year was underwhelming. And also a bit of a slap in the face with that last reveal. I did not like the way they handled that. Very much just spoilers in terms of when this is being recorded, and who knows when you'll actually see this out in terms. I might try and put this one out a little bit sooner than usual. The turnaround, that is. But I decided to play Contra Rogue Corp. Is it Contra Rogue Corp or Corpse? I should figure that out because played it. Rogue Corpse. But I decided to play Contra Rogue Corps as I was going through a short list of games to play that would fit into the time frame. I had about 20-ish hours to work with, and I ended up playing Contra Rogue Corps. I'll just call it Rogue Corps from now on because I was always kind of curious about it. I didn't think it was going to be a great game, but I thought, how bad could it be? Is it really as bad as many say it is? And this is over other options like The Outer Worlds, which is getting its big specific direct this weekend. And that probably would have been the better option because then I could have watched that and gotten excited about it, but that's not going to happen anymore. So I saw Rancher Rogue Corps. I saw Rogue Corps and thought, how bad could it be? Let's give this a go. And that was the impetus of my downfall. It just was a terrible idea because Rogue Corps is an incredible, awful game. It's incredibly awful and terrible. And it's not a Contra game. I don't know what makes this a Contra game, really, outside of having some nostalgic music in it that they play a lot. But other than that, doesn't play like a Contra game. Doesn't the closest comparison would be Neo Contra, I guess. But even so, it just the weird thing about it. So it's structured across 7 mission ranks that are comprised of I think 5 or 6 levels each, and then you have a pack of hardcore missions where you start off with no continues, no bombs, and you try and make it through that way, and then some exploration missions that are just these incredibly tedious, long drawn out things. At least the one I tried is. And each of the specific mission ranks, which are what follows the story in quotations, are made up of your 4 or 5, I think it's 5 regular stages, and then your final boss fight to end out each rank. You can play it cooperatively if you have a friend who also owns a game and wants to play it because the community is dead. If it was ever alive, I don't know. But the thing that there are multiple things. So, among all the issues, first and foremost, the enemies you're fighting, it doesn't feel like a Contra game in the sense that you're not you don't need to be precise. It's not about precision or I don't know what to fucking say about this game. I'm losing my mind just having it talk about it. And I don't know where to start in terms of all the bad in it. Maybe I'll start with the level. The level design is terrible. So when I think about a Contra game, I'm thinking about precision platforming, about having to be the very best I can be in terms of shooting and navigating the levels. I think of creative level designs that ask me to be precise in what I'm doing, both in terms of shooting and jumping and all of that. I think of great music. None of that's here. One of the things that's different here is that you have your little home base and you are constantly earning XP and money and these items, weapon blueprints so that you can customize your character because there are 4 playable characters. You have I don't know if he's supposed to be one of the main dudes from the first game, if it's supposed to be Bill or not, but and he's cross-eyed, whatever. But you have him and then a panda, some alien looking dude, and I think a lady. But they all have their base weapons, but you'll earn unlocks for new weapons you can develop, shotguns, chakrams, so on and so forth. I just stayed with the default loadout the whole time and developed that over time because you can increase the level of weapons up to S plus, and doing so improves stats like base damage, obviously, cooldown rate, so on and so forth, fire rate, and whatnot. And with the combat, it works off, like I said, a cooldown system so that you are firing your main weapons and you're building up this cooldown meter. If you reach the top of it and you don't let it cool down, then you have to wait a bit longer for you to be able to use the gun again. Or if you do the cooldown, which happens very fast if you just let off the trigger, you can keep using your gun without having that penalty. But Unlike your typical Contra game, you're able to level up and improve your weapons, create better ones, so on and so forth, find a loadout that works for you, and make the game easier for you in that sense. There's no real difficulty, and from what I've seen, the difficulty question they ask you at the beginning of the game just affects your beginning loadout. But what this does is makes the game feel weird in terms of balance, in the sense that after I beat the game and had fully upgraded my main weapon, the early levels were nothing. Bosses I could kill in a few shots, and regular enemies, they all went down with one shot. And that's one of the things. It's been a while since I played a Contra game, and I don't have the widest experience in terms of Contra. I played and loved the original on NES, and then I played and loved the hell out of Contra Shattered Soldier. Shattered Soldier is my favorite. I also played 4 and the spiritual successor at the time, part of the franchise, but not really. I'm not sure what we considered Hardcore Rising or Uprising, an Xbox Live Arcade. So I have a kind of sporadic experience, history with Contra. But I think of it as being, again, these very well designed levels that ask you to be precise. And also, with all your base enemies, they go down with one hit, unless they're something like a turret or whatnot. But a lot of enemies, your base enemies, will just go down with one hit. Here, so many things are bullet sponge, and your mini boss type characters, enemies, are unbelievable bullet sponges, so that the gameplay experience is one of tedium more than anything else. It is so exhausting dealing with these enemies that are big hulking dudes who just take so many bullets to take down. And maybe there are these perfect ideal loadouts that if you can figure out the perfect setup, everything's easy. I never got that. I didn't try either. But the enemies are just such a boring, tedious thing to deal with. Even base enemies, when you're on the same level as them, they are more bullet spongy than they should be. I feel like these fodder enemies should just go down right away. It doesn't help that the game just likes to throw a bundle of enemies at you at one time. It feels way more akin to something like a Musu game, a Dinosaur Wars game, than a Contra game in that sense, where it's just throwing hordes and hordes and hordes of enemies at you and locking you into these arena type spaces at times, and just constantly spawning in enemies until you defeat all of them, all the waves that they throw at you. That's annoying. There are cheap sections where they have enemies locked behind things that are shooting at you, and certain there are there's this one boss you fight pretty late in the game, and then whenever you fight a boss, they'll end up showing up in the regular part of levels up until through the end of them. And there's this one that takes a very minute amount of damage if you hit it in its weak spot when it's just in its normal mode. And eventually you'll wear it down and it'll get into its weakened state, reveal its face, and you can do a lot of damage. And this is one of the most annoying, if not the no, this is the most annoying enemy in the entire game, because it requires, at the very best, two perfect two perfect situations in terms of getting it to its weakened state and hitting with everything you've got, and hopefully in two of those phases successfully killing it. But very often you'll end up having to deal with the third phase. At least I did. And it made for an incredibly frustrating experience because it has this wide spinning 360 attack that I think is more like four a four I don't know, 470 attack or something. It feels like it does more than just a 360 attack with it. And it does this charge attack that is incredibly annoying. And one of the things I hate about the charge attack of it is that you'd think that when it hits a wall or something, it would lose momentum. That's the way you could be able to you dodge it out of the way and it lose but instead it hits a wall and then it just starts following you in whatever direction you dodged in. Because it's just like whatever. It there's nothing that is gonna stop its momentum outside of it just stopping itself. But the level design is just because this is a twin stick shooter. I never mentioned that. This is a isometric, close in camera though, twin stick shooter. So sometimes it goes behind the back, and you have these sections where you have a cursor on screen, essentially kind of thing, where you are shooting in front of you. And sometimes the camera just pull behind you. Sometimes it'll go fully over the top. So the camera moves around a little bit, but at its core, the majority of the time, it's relatively isometric. But the level design is just a bunch of roadways and then small arena-like spaces, and that's kind of it. But the real crazy thing is that it is so repetitive in its design, which is not even true because it just rehashes the same levels over and over and over again. There are, again, 7 mission ranks of 6 missions, I think, each. 6 levels, 6 stages. And there are probably less than 10 levels in total, or maybe around 10 levels. And then they just keep reusing them. And it's not that they're just reusing the assets, reusing a specific environment, a similar environment. You're in a similar environment and they change it. It's not even that they have, for instance, a bunch of level pieces. Like here is the alley of this level. Here is the caged in arena space. Here is the courtyard. Here is the burned down block. Here is the so on and so forth. And then they rearrange it for additional levels. No, it is the same exact layout. Again, everything's the same. The enemy spawns, the enemy placements, everything about them is the same. There's probably something that's a little bit different to make it feel a little different, but it's so clear that it's just the same fucking level, structured the same fork in the road here, the same pathway here, the same enemy here, that it becomes unbelievably repetitive and frustrating in the sense that not only are you not giving me well-designed levels, you're just throwing these same shitty levels at me over and over and over again. It's awful. I hate it. The boss fights are whatever. I'm trying to think of anything positive. This game legit made me say to myself, do I want to play games anymore? Do I still like gaming? Obviously, I still love gaming. But I had such a negative experience with this that, and this is wild. I, depending on release order and everything, I played through and had a really bad time with Kingdom Come Deliverance, the first game. And then after that, I played Dredge and had a great time. Contra Rogue Corps is so bad, it made me completely forget about Dredge. After I finished Contra Rogue Corps, I said to myself, man, I can't believe I decided to follow up a game I hated with another game I hate, and I hate even more. What a stupid decision that was of me. And then I had to pause and realize, wait, I played Dredge, which is probably my favorite gameplay experience of the year. And I completely forgot. This game is so bad, it erased my memory of a game I loved so that it isn't just a game I hate, it's a game I hate that takes games I love and deletes them. It's that kind. It's like a fucking virus. This is a video game virus. I don't know. This is a mess of an episode because I don't know what to say about it. everything's bad about it. It looks like shit. It looks like a 360 era game. That it just rehashes enemies. Fucking stupid ass game. I don't. It was just one nightmare hellhole of an experience that frustrated the hell out of me. The fact that I actually did beat it in some ways surprises me because it was a grueling experience. The levels are all timed, which never really comes into play in terms of you worrying about not finishing the game, the levels in time, because they give you roughly 30 minutes to finish a level, give or take. They never give, maybe take it. Some might be 28 minutes and so on. And that's more so leading into your high score potentiality. You have 3 factors: the amount of damage you do, the amount of time you take, and then there are these barrel things, these containers that will randomly pop up in levels, and you collect them. They're typically 15 per level, and you just collect them. They have a certain amount of time before they explode. And by collecting them, all you get is this other high score system. You're adding to that so that you'll get ideally an S rank on a level when you finish it. And that can be frustrating. One, I wish the the barrel things, the containers, maybe gave you some health or gave you some incentive outside of the high score. But I guess that high score system is, if you want to get an S rank, it's incentive enough. But one of the things that's very frustrating about the time system, especially, is that even if you pick single player solo, I just want to play this level by myself. I'm not playing with other people. I'm not doing an open server thing or any situation like that. You can't pause the game. Why? You're playing by yourself. You're doing a single player mission. This isn't a Souls like. This isn't an always online thing where somebody could just pop. No, it's a single player. I'm playing this level by myself. Why the fuck can't I pause it? The number of times I had an itch and I couldn't scratch it, or I scratched it and then took a lot of damage, was unbelievably annoying. Pro tip 2 for levels and whatnot is that you have your bombs. Don't use your bombs all willy-nilly. They seem worthless in terms of actually damaging enemies, and their main use to me was whenever you use your bombs, they will give you, I think, 20 health. And that is a great way of, because you have your health and you can take a certain number of hits, and when it gets down to 0, you take a hit, one more hit, and you die, you lose a life, and you use it continue. But if you have a bomb, you use that when you're down to 1 hit, get that 20 health back, and you have 2 additional hits. Because even if your health is at 1, you still have that cushion of being able to take an additional hit before dying and having to continue. There are some enemies you can grab. I think you can grab any enemy that you stun, but certain ones like gold enemies and these armored enemies that can only be damaged if you pick them up and throw them into, well, if you just throw them in general, but if you throw them into certain devices, they'll give you a lot of extra health. And the game can be finicky in terms of picking up who I want to pick up. It becomes a nightmare there. There is part of the whole kind of crafting system is that you can install implants on your character that will improve certain stats. And there is this risk reward system, I guess, where you have the base the base surgeon who can install a mod into you, and you'll just get what the mod comes with. But then there are 2 additional doctors who cost money to perform the services, and there's a chance they'll fail. But if they succeed, you'll get extra perks, I guess. I did this throughout the entire game, throughout my entire run, and it failed every time I went with one of the premium options until I beat the game and just randomly said, hey, why don't I try another one? And it worked that time. And after it worked, I did not see any kind of, it looked like all the stats were exactly the same. So I didn't understand what I just fucking wasted 20,000 gold or however much it was on. I would recommend never spending money on any of that shit. But it's a fucking name. I don't. It's an awful game. It's not a Contra game. That's the biggest takeaway. You are fighting against bullet spongy enemies in large hordes that will just come. They will converge on you in large numbers in a way that doesn't feel Contra. Because yes, in a Contra game, you'll have continuous spawning enemies that will come at you in their specific patterns, but they'll come at you from both sides, like the original Kung Fu or whatnot. But you don't have situations where you're playing in a 2D, and it's different because it's a side-scrolling game traditionally. You don't have enemies that are converging on you from all directions. But here, that happens quite often. And it makes it, again, feel like a Musu game. I thought to myself, the way this game is structured, it would have been better, it would have made more sense if they just made Survivors-like. And then I remembered, oh, wait, there's Contra themed DLC for Vampire Survivors, I think. I should just play that, because that's probably the optimized version of what this game is trying to do. I guess I can give it a props for maybe trying to be something different with Contra, but in trying to be different, it ends up being so different that it strips away everything. The thing about changing is that if you're going to try and change up a series, refresh it, make it feel new, you can't just strip everything that makes the franchise what it is, because then it has the identity is completely gone. You can't just throw in some music you remember and say, oh, I know this track. No, that's not how it works. These levels suck. And then you just make me play through them over and over and over again. The combat sucks. This twin stick shooter stuff, it sucks. The game is just a cheap piece of crap. And I hate it. But I beat it, so I can at least say that. And I think when I looked at the achievements, even beating the first mission rank was a rare achievement. And then less than 1%, I believe, beat the game entirely. But I beat the game all by myself. Yay. End of Attack the Backlog. Was this a good episode? I don't think so. I don't know what the fuck I talked about. I don't know what happened. But at least I can now play my Switch 2. Because this game is out of my life. Anywho, that's going to do it for this here episode of Attack the Backlog. Once again, hi, I'm Marcus Nez. Y'all can find me pretty much everywhere at PX Sausage. If you enjoy this here show or any of the stuff I do and what have you, you can support me and my nonsense over at patreon.com/PXS. There you can get access to a monthly Q&A, a private Discord channel, along with some fancy Discord roles, and the random drop on the Patreon here or there, depending on your tier. Or you could just support me to support me if that is your fancy. In addition to the Patreon, you can find links to the site, the YouTube, the Discord, and so much more over at pxsausage.com. That is the letter P, the letter X, sausage.com. That is it. That is all. As always, thank you for watching or listening. I hope you enjoyed this here episode, and I hope you have a wonderful, wonderful rest of your day. But for now, adios, arrivederci,